Ready?
Ready.
Time to call the Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for August 9th, 2018 to order. First thing is prayer. Do we?
Not here.
All right, we're going to stand for a silent prayer and then pledge allegiance. Okay. Pledge allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is approval of minute or approval of agenda.
Mayor, we had one item that we're asked to delete tonight. That's item 6E, approval of dates for the November and December BMA meetings. As we talk to more aldermen, we think we may have a quorum for the November meeting, so we may come back to you later on if we need to change the dates. But for right now, we'll keep the dates the way they are.
What about December?
I think we need to.
We're going to wait till the new board is sworn in so that everyone who will be at that meeting will be voting on it.
Right.
Okay.
Move to approve agenda with the removal of item 6E.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Mayor's report. I don't have anything to report. Does anybody else like to say anything? All right, moving on. Citizens Forum.
Speakers tonight, the first one's Robin Hill at 11504 Mountain View Road.
Getting up is not as easy as it used to be. This whole I'm Robert M. Hill. I live at 11504 Mountain View Road in Farragut, Tennessee. Lived here for 62 years now. I'm going to speak on one of the issues that Mayor-elect Williams touched on in his three guiding principles. One is that, as he said it, that one of the things he wants to do is maintain a citizen-driven government, and so do I. I've sent all of you aldermen a copy of a proposal I had. Did everyone receive it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, got some more if you need them. It doesn't require a lot of explanation, and it has before the proposal I had some thoughts about it. But one of the most important decisions that a board of mayor and alderman has is replacing one of its members, because the member who is elected gets a lot of votes. The member who is selected by this board as a replacement gets 3 out of 5 votes. And there's a vast difference in how much the citizens know about the person who's been elected, nor who else was considered, nor what their qualifications were. So that thing I wrote, or that proposal, deals with that. And I would urge Mayor-elect Williams to consider that as a first piece of business so that we can get to total clarity on the replacement, on his replacement on the Board of Mayor and Alderman. Anybody have any questions?
I do not.
Could you state your proposal for the audience here that didn't get the benefit of seeing our?
I've got some extra copies if anybody wants one. Anybody want one? All right. I've got nine more. So you're welcome to it. I'll give it to you.
Why don't you, I think Mayor Mark, or Alderman Markley is asking for you to read that for us.
Yeah, could you just articulate the proposal?
What's that?
Could you?
You to articulate the proposal.
Would I articulate it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's, I wanted to save your time, so that's why I wrote it down. I don't have my glasses on, so I'll have to get this at the right distance away. In cases where a vacancy must be filled absent an upcoming regular election, the following procedure is proposed for your consideration. 1, advertise a call for candidates in a paper of legal record. The advertisement should include the requirement for a petition along with 25 signatures of qualified voters in 66 and 66S and 66 North Ward. A date required for the submission of that must be specified in the petition. It will be specified for the petitions. After receipt of all the petitions submitted to this board, the board would call a workshop and have each candidate state his case and answer questions asked by the members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And I would urge that you take questions from the audience only in writing, because you don't want to have a debating contest. But that'll make it pretty clear who wants the job. After that, the questions are submitted. Board of Mayor and Aldermen would put the election on their agenda for a regular meeting. Votes will be taken until the candidate receives a majority vote by 3 out of 4 votes with the sitting BOMA members. That's pretty simple, but my preference is to have the job filled by a regular election. But we don't have any other regular elections, and if you really want to see somebody who knows how to run a ship and how complicated it is to run an election, you can talk to Mr. Cliff Rogers. But it's an absolute must for him to get his information in 75 days before the election is called. I mean, he can't do everything he has to do unless he has that. So that's out of the question. Now, it probably wouldn't cost the town too much to have a special election only for that purpose, because you have one machine or 2 machines and small staff. But I would like for you all to consider that, because I think that's one of the places that transparency is an absolute must, absolute. And so that articulates it as best I can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Bob.
Allison, I'm sorry, before you call in the next public forum speaker, I forgot to mention, John Schoonmaker is in the room, and I apologize, I stole your thunder there.
I was just going to do that.
Mayor
Go ahead.
Pinchot. But what I wanted to do was make an announcement. The swearing in for the county commission, new county commissioners, is Friday, August 31st, is that correct?
Correct.
At 9 a.m. in the large assembly room.
And
So,
the county mayor and the county fee office holders.
okay, thank you.
Main assembly?
Main assembly
Yeah.
room, yeah, in the city county building.
No, you said 9 a.m.?
9 a.m. Yep.
Refreshments afterwards?
They usually do, but it's a little sparse.
Do we-
Both of our at-large county commissioners will be
Yep.
sworn in, so.
All right, our next speaker is Darren Zaveri.
Hello, good evening. My name is Darren Zaveri. I live at 317 Seven Oaks Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee. The reason why I'm here is I'm trying to find out a solution for my project. It was approved last time when I was here at the public hearing. The project name is Knox Valley Dental. And the issue that I'm running into is with TDOT now. The plan was approved for emergency access only for the fire truck turnaround. We planned it accordingly. The whole project is planned accordingly to that. Now, before the Planning Commission meeting, we sat down with the Planning Commission, asked them, and they granted that permission for us to use that. since it already has a curb cut around that corner, now TDOT is saying that I can't use that, and it changes the whole layout of my building, which won't approve according to the fire marshal's code. So I would have to find another way for a turnaround, which I don't understand. Why is this so late now?
I have talked to Mr. Smoke about this, and I know he's been trying to get with you, try to reach you to see if you can come up with a meeting time to discuss another solution or other options. David, would you like to comment?
We'd be happy to meet with Dr. Zaveri at any time, he and his staff, to try to figure out a solution to the issue at hand. Obviously, the Planning Commission has full purview over the approval of the last site plan that you have right now, which shows that access. Given the fact that TDOT has denied your access, I know they have probably talked to your engineer about a variance process that they have that you can go through and request to go through, or we can hopefully come up with some solution, on your site. I think probably a couple of these solutions don't require having to go back to the Planning Commission for any kind of approvals, and they could probably be done very quickly if you can get your engineer and architects or whoever in with our fire marshal and our town engineer. They'd be happy to meet with you and talk to you about some of those options.
Okay, so the reason why we did the emergency access was we didn't have to sprinkle the building. According to code, we don't have to sprinkle the building, but if we don't have that emergency access, that's one of the alternatives. It's very expensive. That's why we specifically mentioned it in the Planning Commission meeting that we really don't want to sprinkle the building. I gave away part of the space to Farragut, like the sidewalk and all that. I'm okay with that, and in order for me to not sprinkle the building. Now, the other alternatives we have is Will Robinson, my civil engineer. He couldn't make it here tonight, but he spoke with the fire marshal, and basically there's only three alternatives. Is either to do the T or whatever the radius is required. If we do all those options, it's going to affect the retention pond in the back, and it kind of affects the site and everything. If we do that, the dumpster that's back there, I would have to move it or something, and I'm sure you guys don't want it facing Kingston Pike up front. I mean, it doesn't look good. So those are the alternatives if I don't sprinkle the building.
Have you, and I spoke to Daryl about this earlier today, we were kind of brainstorming this. What about the option of speaking with the landowner next door and having instead of having that emergency access route to Kingston Pike, having it to the private drive and bollarding that off? Is that an option? Have we explored that option?
I have explored that option before the Planning Commission meeting that was here before. I called the owner next door multiple times. He refused to grant me easement over there. He said that your building's up front and it will cover my building, and he doesn't want to give me easement for that reason. So I asked him for easement either towards that Kingston Pike, or I asked him if he could give me easement in the back, the area where it would take him to the traffic light. He declined both of those. I called him like 2-3 times.
So at turnaround, I'm struggling with there's an issue with, don't you just need a turnaround?
You do not have to have a secondary access. You just have to be
Have a
able to have a
turnaround.
truck be able to get in and turn around in order to go back out the exit. So if there's a viable solution for that on your site, then certainly that's an option for you without having to sprinkle your building.
I mean, we looked into the options with and if I chose any of those options, I would have to change my site plan quite a bit. So it'll affect the retention area, pond area in the back, and I would have to remove at least 5 or 6 parking spaces and move the dumpster.
Again, the fire code's there for life safety purposes. And so, again, if you want to talk to Fire Marshal Dan Johnson and get a meeting with Mark Shipley, our Community Development Director, I know they'd be happy to sit down with you and your engineer and go through what those options are. but the fire code is a code that you have to meet for a brand new site and building. And so that's where their expertise can really sit down and talk to you about what those options are. But if TDOT will allow you the access, the Planning Commission's already approved it. I mean, we can move along with that site.
Right, I understand, but if Farragut could help me out with TDOT, so even my civil engineer tried to contact a member of the Planning Commission to set up a meeting with TDOT, and he said that we had to cancel it because he never heard anything back.
Well, again, we don't tell TDOT what to do. They're a state agency,
Right,
so
I understand that, but at least you could recommend them, like.
And I think that if you have a variance request to TDOT to go further in that process, and you'd like us to write a letter for you, we'd be happy to write a letter to say what the situation is and what's going on, and the fact that we don't consider it an access since it's emergency access only. We'd be happy to do that, but you still have to go through that formal process with TDOT first in order to get that to work.
And I'm happy to sign on to that letter. I think the elected officials would be, I can't speak for everyone, but we don't consider this an access either. We're kind of stunned that after all of these years of you go up and down Kingston Pike and the access points, and all of a sudden now we're concerned about this, and we're not even seeing it as an access point. We agree with you, but we can't. All we can do is help you support your position. We support your position, but we don't make the final call. That's TDOT, and I know that Darrell has worked on it. I know that David has worked on it. I know they've both called. I know that Darrell's come back and asked both Cameron and his supervisor, hey, we don't see this as an access point. It's going to be bollarded off. It's not going to be used. And they still have concerns that they consider it the potential to be an access point.
Okay.
So I am happy to support you any way I can. I'm confused when and I don't do measurements, so I can't speak to it, but I look at this site plan and I think that there may be room for you to maneuver, but, I'm not an engineer and I certainly don't do design drawings, but I do know that it looks like you required 34 spaces. You have 34 spaces behind the building. It looks like there's a lot to play with. I certainly don't want to tell you should take spaces out or not take spaces out, but it sounds like you're meeting your parking minimums with the spaces here, so you have a little bit of room to play up there where you have the access point. I think there's an opportunity to at least explore a turnaround.
Okay.
And I would really, I would encourage us to look at that option. If you want to go back to TDOT and file a variance.
I turned that in this week for
Okay.
variance.
In the meantime, it can't hurt to look at this and see, is there an option there that
Okay.
is palatable to you? I think that it certainly, if you're going to be waiting for TDOT's response anyway, it certainly doesn't hurt to take a look at it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that. And also, if I could get a letter to TDOT from you guys, that'll help as well.
I would suggest you call David, get together with David and staff, come up with whatever you need to do, whether it be a letter or other communication that we all agree on. But we support you. We want to help you. But I think you need to sit down with staff and come up with some direction.
Happy to do that.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, I think, just to add to this, all four of us were in that meeting with Darrell, the town engineer, Mark Shipley, our community development director, Dan Johnson, the fire marshal. Nobody saw any problem with this. Now all of a sudden there's a problem. Did nobody of all our staff, did nobody see that TDOT would have a reason to reject this?
That's not our job to contact TDOT. That's the applicant's job to contact TDOT. But we typically wouldn't think this would be an issue. But TDOT has a rule about these kind of issues now with access. And so that was what, as I talked to the gentleman from TDOT that denied the request, that's exactly what he said, is that this is considered an access because it's a drop curb. Even though no cars are going to be going through there except a fire truck, and in case of an emergency,
And plus,
they
it's
still consider
pre-existing.
that.
It's been there for forever. It looks like, I just, I don't understand where they got the idea that they could deny this. It seems like that somebody, they said, I read their letter, they said that somebody at the town of Farragut told them that there are alternatives. Did they tell them that there are alternatives that are going to cost $20,000, $30,000, $50,000? That's going to cost this man months to redesign his site plan and that sort of thing? I think we really need to go to bat for him. I think we need to have a planned, coordinated visit with this gentleman and explain the situation to him. This is not business friendly. And I don't know that anybody here senses the urgency that this gentleman's trying to get his store open. He's got money invested. He's been trying to get this done. He's done everything right. And everybody told him, okay, yep, that'll work. Okay, we're good to go. All the four of us were here at that meeting and heard that. And then he goes and...
But we're not stopping it. We're not preventing it. And David and Darrell have both repeatedly gone to bat for this, explaining the situation of what we believe. We've heard that. We've talked to, I wrote a private email to David, hey, is there anything I can be doing as an elected official to support this? And if I can, please let me know. This is not our decision to make. We're not the ones that are stopping this. TDOT is. And I'm happy to support any way we need to. But now they've said, we're rejecting this, you have a variance. You have an appeal procedure through a variance. Now, how long is that going to take through TDOT? I have no idea. I certainly don't want to see him delayed. That's why I'm saying you've filed your variance. We're happy to work through getting a letter out to support your variance because we don't view this as an access. But in the meantime, let's take a look at this site plan and see if there's something else that we can negotiate if this, in fact, they reject the variance. Because I'm not sure if we're going to make any headway. And I would hate to rely on thinking that we're going to.
Well, somebody at the town of Farragut told them that we have options.
They saw we had an option. They said you have access on Chaho. So that's why we're going to deny this, because you...
Okay, well, we need to inform, has anybody informed them that we do not have that access? I mean, it should be a pretty simple thing. I think
They do have the access.
Access to Chayo. That's their main entrance.
Oh, no, Chaho, okay, well,
Yeah,
that's
their
our
main entrance.
principal access,
Right.
but that's not, that doesn't provide the requirement for the fire marshal. In order to do that, we've got to redesign the whole project. This seems like a very reasonable, simple thing, and I think we need to get all over this guy and make him feel some heat. We're putting this, and it's not. You say it's not our decision, but we told those people, oh yes, he's got options, or that's what they're telling me. That's what his letter said.
That did not have any reflection from my discussions with TDOT. They had already made up their mind that they were going to close this access because it was a drop curb. So because of the drop curb nature of the access, that's why they are denying this. It did not matter if there was alternatives or not. I asked him if they look at our code as part of their discussion on access, and he said no, they do not look at our code. So he may have said there's alternatives, but it doesn't really matter to TDOT in this case. I think it's a typical situation like any of our staff would have. We have variances in place to go to BZA all the time as well. There's many times our staff can't make they see it black and white in the code. This is what it says. I can't approve anything for you, but I understand where you're coming from, but you're going to have to request a variance to get that approved. It may be a very similar situation with this situation with TDOT. The staff person seeing it, sees what the code says or his regulations say, has denied the access, and now he's given them the option to go to a variance process through TDOT to go to Nashville. So again, we are supportive. We'll be happy to do anything we can to write that letter and help you out. But in the meantime, as I mentioned to you in an email, I know Mr. Fire Marshal Johnson has also mentioned to you in an email, we'd be happy to sit down with you whenever you have a chance to get your team together and go through other options like Alderman Pavlin mentioned. We'd be happy to do that.
This may sound like a silly question, but if the issue is because of the drop curb, could we replace it with a curb? Would that change the issue?
A fire truck needs to.
Well, a fire truck, I assume, can get over a curb.
I would assume, but that's a question more for engineering and I think if we sit down and go through it, I think we can work things out. We're not going to be able to do that tonight at this meeting.
For a secondary access.
I have Chad Turner who wants to speak to this item as well.
What?
Like to speak as well.
Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Chad Turner with Oliver Smith Realty. My address is 7216 Wellington Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee. I think actually my comment now at this point is sort of redundant. I think one of the things that I think Darren Zaveri really wants to make clear is that this was really a very well thought out site plan. We put a lot of thought into this, and we've tried the rearrangements before, and in fact, the people at the City of Farragut really were very helpful. And I mean, you guys sat down with us and took a lot of time, and I'm sure those of you who were in the meeting will remember that the arrived at solution of having the fire trucks go over the curb was sort of, the last way of making it work, and that was sort of what Mark Shipley and the fire marshal decided on. Again, Darren's and my own understanding was that, TDOT sort of said, well, if there are other options for this guy, then we're going to deny it, and you can explore those other options. But it sounds like, in fact, Farragut, mentioning that there may or may not exist other options didn't play into TDOT's decision to deny this at all, I think is my correct understanding, right? The TDOT is doing their own thing, and really we can write a letter saying that we all support Mr. Zaveri, but TDOT's basically going to do their own thing. Is that the correct?
Yes, just like as I mentioned earlier, we are happy to write Dr. Zaveri a letter of support and talk about the fact that we don't believe this is an access that we would, because again, it's not a access that any cars are going to go through on a regular basis. It's going to have bollards in front of it. Nobody can get through it. So we obviously are supportive of that. I think it's just a matter of you have two processes now you can go through. The variance process with TDOT and try to work that out, or you can sit down with us and try to work out any alternatives that may be available that may be quicker than going through TDOT.
And let me say, I really hope we can get this worked out, because I'm excited about this project. I think the design of it, what you're looking to build, and where you're putting it is really an asset to our town. And I would like to see this project move along, because I understand time is money, and you've got a lot invested. I would like to see this resolved as quickly as possible, but public safety is a concern that we can't relent on certain aspects of, and I don't think any of us really want to. But I would like to see this resolved for you in the best and most expedient manner possible, so that you can get started on a project that you've had surprises from the get-go, finding out that there's a basement and it's filled with awful garbage, and you're going to have to deal with that. So I appreciate that you're sticking with it. We'd like to see you get started as well.
Okay. All right.
So I'm full in support, no matter whatever I can do, short of pitching a hissy fit in front of TDOT in Nashville. I'm with you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll email David and get with him and get my team with him as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, this Cameron with TDOT, where's he officed? He's here in Knoxville, isn't he?
Yes, he's in Strawberry Plains.
I might be able to pitch a hissy fit in Strawberry Plains.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think these people just threw a monkey wrench into our town's function here, and that we need to advocate for our citizen here who's trying to do business in town. And I think that we should take an active stance with TDOT and just tell them, in behalf of the town of Farragut, that we really don't appreciate this, and that we want them to reconsider that there are significant consequences to our client, to our citizen, and that I just don't think there's a valid reason for them to deny this, unless they think there's some easy, cheap solution that we hadn't thought of. I think this man's been through the ringer, and we need to try to help him out.
That's what we're trying to do. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, sir.
All right. Next item, approval of minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We're now on business items. Item A, approval of purchase of one new 2019 two-wheel drive pickup truck through the standard bidding process.
Good evening. We put out to bid a couple of weeks ago the replacement of a vehicle that we have that is being used now in the codes department. And what we put out was the bids for 2019 and also an alternate bid for something that they had in stock that would either match or exceed our bids. We received 3 bids. That's on the tab sheet there that you have. The low bid for this vehicle was with Rice GMC. It's a Canyon pickup truck, and the price was $22,740. The truck that we're replacing, we're starting to have some issues with it. It's an 03, so it's a 15-year-old vehicle. And what we would do with it is put it on Gov Deals after this new truck comes in, if it's approved. So we're asking for a motion for approval of a 2019 GMC Canyon pickup truck for the price of $22,740, which was low bid.
I'm going to move for approval of bids for the purchase of one 2019 GMC Canyon pickup truck to Rice GMC in the amount of $22,740.
Second.
Okay, comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a question. The Canyon is that's not a full-size truck, right? That's a semi-compact truck.
That's correct.
It's a mid-size, isn't it? Yeah.
That's what a Ford Ranger is, a pretty small truck too, isn't it?
Yes, the Ford Ranger and the Colorado used to be their baby trucks.
Right.
For those dealerships. They've now upsized them a little bit. They're still not a full size. Ranger took their production out in 2011. It will not be back, tentatively, it will not be back in production for us to be able to even place a bid until sometime January of next year.
So it looks like for $500 more, we could get a full-size Chevy Silverado, 1500 model from West Chevrolet. Is that right?
Yep. The problem with the Silverado that we're looking at, I mean, it's more economical for the smaller truck. It's got a much smaller engine in it. And they're not hauling anything. They've got a space behind the seat, to put their equipment that they would do. It's an inspection truck. And so they're not hauling anything in the back of it, so they don't need a full-size truck.
So it meets your needs. And the
Canyon?
Canyon meets your needs?
Yes, sir. I set the bids up so that the Canyon could be bid.
I would assume the Silverado eats a lot more gas.
It's a full-size truck. Yes,
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's got a bigger motor. What they're bidding has a bigger motor because this small motor that's in the Canyon, they don't put it in the Silverado.
Okay.
Yeah, little old motors wear out faster, so I don't know. And the Silverado's got pretty good gas mileage now. That it's a lot more truck for the money, it seems like. So I just feel like that if we're going to spend that kind of money, we ought to get a real truck.
Any,
Preference is still the Canyon. You would prefer the Canyon for?
Yeah, I mean, he's in and out of construction areas
Okay.
and all. It's just a smaller truck. It's like I said, he's driving a Ranger now. He's been driving it for 15 years. It's a small truck. He's been fine with that.
Okay.
And so with no complaints. And so I just, the Canyon will meet the needs. And the Canyon, if you see a Canyon, it's not as big as a Silverado, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty big upgrade from that Ranger for sure.
Yes.
Okay, I have no more comments.
I have none.
all right, time to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, approval of purchase of one new 2019 John Deere 4066M compact utility tractor through Sourcewell National Bidding Process.
This item is a purchase of a 2019 John Deere 4066M compact utility tractor. The tractor that we have right now is an 03. We've had issues in the past with it, internal issues. We figured out, that there was some things that needed to be taken care of. We got that taken care of, and it's lasted, the last 5 years, we really hadn't had any problems with it, but it's starting to do its thing. You have multiple people driving it, which causes problems. If one person drove it all the time, it'd be a different story. But we feel like we're getting ready to get into a possible clutch replacement with that vehicle, which is going to be expensive. And so we'd like to replace it. We went through Sourcewell, which is it's a national bidding where these vehicles are already pre-bid to the states for a specific price with a discount. And so we went through Sourcewell. The 4066 will meet all of our needs as far as horsepower at the PTO for the attachments that we have. We don't have to purchase anything new as attachments. The bush hog and things that we run on there, the aerators and all that, will go right on this tractor. We don't have to have anything new. And so that's the only difference is this is going to be a four-wheel drive, and we have a two-wheel drive now. Now the tires will be turf. These are aggressive tires for four-wheel drive for using that scoop to dig out and things like that. But we'll have it on for turf tires, which are much wider, and spread that load out. So when we get on our fields and stuff, that we don't damage those fields. But Sourcewell, through Sourcewell, John Deere here in Farragut at Farragut Lawn and Tractor, their price through Sourcewell is $34,409.66. And I'd like to propose that you offer a motion for this tractor.
I move to approve the bid for the purchase of 2019 John Deere 4066M compact utility tractor to Farragut Lawn and Tractor in the amount of $34,409.66.
Second.
Comments and questions?
Yeah, how many horsepower is this?
50.
50?
Yeah.
And do you know what the weight on it is?
No, I don't have a bid, spec sheet on it in front of me.
Well, it's good we're dealing with the local dealer here.
Absolutely.
I have no questions.
This is a gasoline or diesel?
Diesel?
Diesel.
Any further questions or comments?
None.
I have none.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, bud. Next item. Item C. Approval of a supplement request from Kinley Horn and Associates Incorporated for the additional services required for Union Road project.
Yes, you'll recall we awarded a contract to Kimley Horn for to do all of the design engineering for the Union Road project early last year. Shortly after that, we had several discussions with with you guys, planning commissioners, public, and everyone expressed a need to make that more of a pedestrian-friendly corridor. We're looking for things to add to the project that could slow vehicles down some. So we asked Kimley Horn to add roundabouts, one at Brochart Boulevard, one at Saddle Ridge Drive, and another one between the Swan and Ivy properties for when they develop. Oh, well, that's a good drawing right there. Adding that to the project does create quite a bit more work for the consultants. So they have asked for an additional $15,500 in fees. That includes $8,600 extra for survey work, $3,126 for additional archaeological and architectural survey, and $2,200 for additional ecological assessment. So staff recommends approval of this.
Need a motion?
I'm going to move for approval of the attached supplement request from Kimley Horn and Associates for additional engineering services for the Union Road project.
Second.
I've got a question. Under the financial section, I'm not sure. I know the three numbers to the right total up to the number on the left. But what is the rest of that money to be used for? I'm a little confused as to
At
budget.
this point, we have budgeted only for the design last fiscal year and then right-of-way in this fiscal year.
Okay, so that 975,000.
We budgeted 475,000 for design, 500,000 for right-of-way.
Okay. And then the line above that says that the project not to exceed 488,685, and it looks like we're going to come in at 473,185 is what you're saying. Is that right?
We're currently contracted for 473,185
Okay.
with Kimley Horn.
And you're gonna-
They're asking for an additional 15,500.
So that's going to bring it to 488,685. Got it. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Further questions, comments?
None. I've none.
I'm frustrated, but I have none.
Okay. Time to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, item D, consideration of proposal to repair the Everett Road Greenway. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hale.
You all will remember that following the completion of the Everett Road project, there developed some rutting in the walking trails on both sides of Everett Road. And as is often the case in construction matters, there was not complete agreement on what was causing the rutting. The town secured the services of Geo Services to do some core drilling to try to figure out what was under the ground. And they did the core drilling and gave us a report. Most of the core drilling that they did was on the west side of Everett Road in that walking trail. And there were a few cores on the east side. They gave us the report, and the report showed that there was less than required materials in a number of the different cores that they took. Not enough, in some areas, not enough stone, and in some areas, not the sufficient thickness of asphalt as required by the specs. So the town took the position that, as best it could tell, that was partly responsible for the rutting, that there wasn't adequate materials. The contractor, McKinnon Construction, on the other hand, took the position that no, it's because the town is running a heavy tractor over the trails, that it's when they're doing their mowing, that's what's causing it. And furthermore, it took the position that some soils that were going to have to be hauled off of the site were inadequate, but they were used by the town or directed by the town to put these soils underneath the walking trails so it wouldn't have to haul the soils off, which was going to cost a lot of money to haul the soil off. Well, the soils that were put there were not in accordance with the specifications in the contract. So the contractor's position was that the fault of the rutting was the combination of the tractors going on the trails and the fact that these soils were used. So you'll remember that we had an executive session when this first came up, and we talked about it, and as I recall it, we suggested that there was a dispute here between the parties, and we weren't absolutely sure what was going on, but if we could get something worked out, we ought to try to get it worked out. Well, the parties met and discussed and actually came to an agreement about what to do about this. The agreement was written up, and essentially, rather than us requiring the contractor to repair it on his own, the town agreed that the town would pay for the materials to do the repair work if the contractor would see to it that all the labor was taken care of to do the repair work. Clearly, a compromise between the parties to work out this dispute. A document was written up, was brought to this body approved it, both parties signed it, and it called for the work to be done, I think, by the end of April. For reasons that really don't have anything to do with the town, but had to do with some health issues related to maybe the contractor and some of the contractors' subcontractors. The work didn't get done by April, and we contacted the contractor and talked about it, and the contractor agreed to get right on it, and in fact did get right on it, and came out and dug up the east side of the east side of Everett Road walking trails, and at that point discovered what he felt was evidence that his view of the cause of the problem was what was causing the problem. And at that point, that desired to renegotiate the settlement agreement that we had reached, and that's where the thing fell apart. The town staff felt like they had an agreement with unknown circumstances. Nobody knew what the problem was. We still don't today know what the problem is on the west side. But anyway, the contractor pulled off the job and was seeking to make a change in the arrangement. And at that point, on advice from me as the town attorney, my advice was we all entered into this knowing that we weren't sure what the cause was, but we were all going to go forward in a constructive way, each of us bearing part of the costs. And my feeling was that that was a compromise settlement, and that's the agreement that we now have, and that's the agreement that everybody should live by. And apparently the contractor doesn't see it that way and has wanted to change the terms of the deal. And I'm not exactly sure what the proposal is to change the terms. As I said, the agreement originally was we would pay for the materials necessary to do the repair, and the contractor was going to be responsible for the labor. And I don't remember the numbers. I think the agreement that was approved have numbers, estimated amounts in the agreement as to what each of those things were going to cost. But anyway, that's where we are. And I think Alderman Markley has requested that this be on the agenda. And I think the contractor, Mr. McKinnon, is here. So that's kind of as fair a way as I think I can explain what happened and where we are. Except I don't know exactly what the motion is that we're supposed to be considering, or I don't know what the proposal is exactly that is going to make this resolve itself, if any.
I was under the impression that a proposal or something was to be sent to our town administrator by last Thursday or Friday.
I did not receive any proposal other than the email that everyone received from the contractor, I believe, on July the 19th.
And the email from the contractor does have, I think at the time on the day when the work was being done and the contractor stopped working on it and sent that email, he apparently did make some attempt to renegotiate the deal, and I'm not exactly sure if he's wanting to have that proposal he made in his email acted on by this body, or exactly what it is. My memory of it is, and it could be wrong, that essentially he was proposing that if the town would pay the labor for the paving contractor to do the repair work, that he would take responsibility for the labor, the other labor involved, is what I remember his email saying.
That's what I understand it to be, and I had asked Mr. McKinnon to prepare an estimate of the cost of that labor for the asphalt, the placement of the asphalt. Did you get that? I think that's what everybody's needing to know is what are we talking about here? Do we need a motion to
We don't have
open
anything
discussion
yet.
on this before we?
State your name and your home address, please.
Mark McKinnon, 900 Ram Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37922. I've been doing business in this town since 1996, and we've done a lot of construction projects here, all the way from sidewalks to building bridges, to building retaining walls, to doing a $3.5 million job. So it's not like it's my first time of working for the town of Farragut. We've all gotten along well. Daryl Smith and his staff has always been cordial to work out things, but I think Mr. Hill is correct. We did leave after understanding that we, as he stated, no one knew what was wrong, but there's one fact. That trail is not put into spec. We do know that. And for anything to hold, you must follow the spec. And that dirt must pass. The base stone, when you call a base stone, it's a pug stone. It's built at Vulcan Materials or wherever you buy the stone. It's in a machine that puts calcium and lime mixture with gravel and fines. And it's wet. That's what the trail required. Also, the trail required was the suitable subgrade, which would be out of a suitable clay or type of material underneath that base stone. Well, the report, if the company that wrote this report is going off the specs of the plans and the specs of the spec book, specifications. And when he writes this, he has no idea what was really under the trail. Now, when they go out there and make a core, it's easy to make a core from asphalt, easy to make a core in concrete, because that is a solid material. But gravel, coring stone, it's really not a core. How they do that is it's a barrel. It's about 3 inches into was that the right size, Bill, or 2? 2.5 inch barrel. They drill into the asphalt. He drilled where the impression was, okay?
Where the wheel ruts were, right?
Yes, sir. So when you have a flat area, the trail, asphalt, and it's impressed, where would the gravel go? If you have wet material underneath it, it's either going to mash down or it spreads to the side. So there was no cores taken either side. It's right down the rut. So we're all in a meeting. First, the town wanted to say this is a warranty issue. Well, there was no warranty because you're not doing it by spec. If you're not doing it by spec, there can't be a warranty. We all knew that. We saved the town and I understand why the town did it. Because it's a walking trail. It's not an equipment trail. It's not equipment crossing. It'll hold up pickups. It'll hold up lawnmowers. But it's not designed to hold up equipment. You can tell by LCUB, they've been out there. They put the big outriggers down, and I can walk you down where they completely have mashed that trail in due to the outriggers of that machinery. So we asked Daryl, could we go look at the cores? And at that time he said, you know, Mark, they're probably already pitched them. But if they have a problem, tell them to call me, go look at them. Well, how they take a core in stone, like I say, it drills. It's a barrel, so it takes the whole cylinder out. So the asphalt's out, and they got the asphalt. And we'll have to disagree. Go look through the chart. The asphalt is there. the state gives you where you can average. So if you're 2.5 and 2, or 3 and 2.5, or 3 and 2, they'll average it and make it 2.5. Same way with stone. But they take the stone, it can't pull it out in one solid thing. So what they do, when they hit the dirt and they see the mud, they'll stop. They take a shop vac and water, suck it, and they suck the stone out, and then they measure it. That's how you, and I mean, that's how they do it. So you don't really, it's really not a true measurement when they do that, but it's an AASHTO, does allow them to do that. Now, not only did the town, but the town hired QK4, and the town had David Sparks every day. So if we were shy on stone, nobody ever recorded that. Nobody ever recorded that. It is there. So we got letters. I was sick. I had cancer. My paving outfit, he had a heart attack, got gangrene in the feet. His plant broke down. The plant's made in Germany. And it took time to get the parts for that. Then he had a heart problem. Then he had gangrene. Then I had cancer. I told Mr. Hale, and he understood perfectly. That's fine. Please try to get to it as soon as you can. If you can get to it earlier, go with it. Because I'm going to talk to David and, you know, tell him the problems and all that. And Daryl knew. Daryl and I have talked about it. So all of a sudden, the subcontractor paving outfit said, you know, we can come on this date. Well, before all this happened, and David and Daryl were right there at that table, and I said, gentlemen, what if we find 6 inches or better material? What are we going to do? I said, we will have to, somebody's going to have to pay. Right now, the reports don't show that. But they were both in that meeting right there at that table. I said, what if we do find this material? Said it about 4 times. And then finally said, well, we'll just have to come to that when we get there. So we started in July, and we got pictures. It's anywhere from 12 inches of stone to 6 inches of stone. One area, which Daryl saw, was one area about 8 feet long, that in that area of the center had about 2.5 inches of stone. The rest of the 320 feet was either 1 foot to 6 inches of stone. But remember, this is not spec stone. It's leftover gravel that we used to keep the subdivision, building houses, and since I understand the town's point, to save money, to put it in the walking trail. And we did exactly what was told. Now, when I signed that paper, I said, you know, maybe there is too. I said, I don't believe it, but maybe there is. So I said, if it's our fault, we need to help pay. But in that section that we have dug out, there's no proof that it's our fault. I had the engineer, Daryl Smith, called him. He was there. I had Ross with Geo Services. He was there. And they were kind of, you know, like, wow, there is no 2 inches of stone there. It's more.
I hate to interrupt you at this point, but you're well over your 5 minutes, but I want to give you a few more minutes to wrap this up if you can. Can you come to what you're trying to propose, please?
Well, I was just trying to give you the base
I
of this whole
understand.
deal.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And like I say, we've never had a problem in the town of Farragut. I've worked with Daryl, I've worked with Kim, I've worked with all of them. Daryl's been here the longest, and I've worked with him the longest. We've never had any problems, but I felt that I made a mistake. I should have walked the day we had the meeting. That was my first mistake. I should have said, material out of specs, no warranty, not my problem, and I should have walked. But since I've been here working since 1996 and hopefully want to work some more, I thought, well, let's just try to make this fair. And so that day we were doing it. I asked Daryl. I wanted Daryl to go talk to David. I wanted David to call or come out, see what the real deal was, instead of a bunch of paperwork that some engineer came up. He cored. I'm not saying it wasn't wet material. I'm not saying it was, but it's not the material that goes by specs. But we put it in there.
Okay, you got to come to your proposal here, what you're getting to.
I feel that, and we've already moved off, if they do, and I thought all department heads, without a decision of the board, could write up to $10,000. Is that true or not?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I was asking for that to pay for, I said, I tell you what, I was wanting more than that, but Darrell said, Mark, we probably can't do that. He goes, I know where you're coming from, but we probably can't do that. I said, well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Patty really has nothing to do this. He's paving this because of us, not because of this town. And in the last 2 years, he has not given this town a quote to do your paving. And so I said, it's only fair, then how about paying his labor? And then I was told no. And then I said, okay, if that's the deal, no, we out. So I'm asking for $10,000 of extra money to pay for his labor on paving this. And me and Bill, we'll move our equipment back in, and we'll give you our labor. But I feel it's only fair of what's fair. Right's right, wrong, wrong.
I think at this point in time, you need to give our staff some type of proposal that we can review and look at, especially with our town attorney. But we're not going to make any decision here today.
I understand,
But
I
there's a
didn't-
process we've got to go through.
I understand perfectly, but I was not, nobody, usually Darrell will tell me to write, to do this, but after that, I don't know, I think the whole town was mad or whatever at me that night or whatever. So I wasn't told to come in with a proposal that I was just going to get to go to the agenda and try to speak and tell you that part.
We appreciate you giving us your
Thank you for
information.
giving me the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Well, I've got a little commentary I'd like to add. And I'm a contractor. I've been doing this all my life, and there's gray areas. It's complex business, and but I do know a little bit about constructing on compacted fills, and it is impossible to get the compaction that you need to support a given load with material that will not support it. And we directed these folks to put material in there, which under normal circumstances probably would have functioned okay. It was a bad call, saved the town a bunch of money, and we overloaded the walking trail with material that with a vehicle that weighs 4 times as much as a Cadillac Escalade, which the trail was not wouldn't bear, wasn't designed to bear, which would have borne if it had been constructed on the proper fill. So I think then in exploring the repair, when Mr. McKinnon came out to do the repair work, it was found that we could repair it for a whole lot less money than what had been anticipated. We thought we were going to have to dig the whole thing up, replace it with select fill, recompact it, put road-based stone in, recompact that, and then come back and pave it. We discovered we can cap most of it with asphalt, which is going to be a tremendous savings to the town. And I think what the gentleman is asking is pretty generous and reasonable under the circumstances. He didn't cause the problem. He was following instructions, and it can't be demonstrated that anything he did caused the problem. He's put quite a bit into it. He's willing to put some more into it. But I think rather than going to war over this thing and spending a whole bunch of money on legal fees, I would certainly think that it would be in everybody's best interest, especially given the record that he has of dealing honorably with the town for many years, that we would make this small concession, get this thing resolved. There may be a legal question. Okay, we got an agreement that says he's going to do this, but then it just comes down to what's right, what's fair, and I think he's performed well, and I think
what's going to get this finished?
Say again, please.
And what's going to get this finished?
Yeah, I mean we can wrangle around with this thing about pointing fingers and resolving legal issues, or we can just go out and get it done and go on. And I think it's in everybody's interest, in the town's interest, in the citizens' interest, to avoid the embarrassment of looking at those darn cones and barrels and flags out there and just get this thing done and go on. So that'd be my suggestion. I'd be happy to make a motion that we approve this and
Approve what?
Prove what?
Yeah, we don't
The-
have a,
We don't have anything to prove, Bob.
He asked for $10,000, and he'll go out there and finish this up.
I don't think we can vote on something without some type of written proposal and something that our staff and attorneys have looked at and agree on.
I agree with that. I would like to resolve this, but we don't have anything written out that we know will bring us to a resolution.
We were under the impression that he was going to have something to staff by Thursday or Friday. That's why this was on the agenda for today.
That's, you know what, that's fine. We don't need to get into an argument about that, but from an aspect of approving something, we do need something in writing. We need a formal proposal that we can both agree on, whatever that is. I would like to resolve this. I have some questions that I'm not going to ask now because I think they're all probably details that everybody probably knows about, and I'm just looking for some background information. But I think we need a written-out proposal. It is my understanding that regardless of what happened underneath the asphalt, the person who put the asphalt down did what he was supposed to do. Is that accurate?
That's what.
He did
that's
what
what
he
we're
was
seeing,
supposed to
yes.
do. Quite frankly, I don't think that he should be out anything, but I don't know how this all works and how this all comes into play, but that's the only point I wanted to make.
I think it's pretty simple. We got a lot of smart people here. I think we can sit down and write out an agreement and vote on it and get it done with and get this thing resolved right here, right now.
Comfortable with that at all?
I feel comfortable with that. I think this needs to go through Tom, and we need to make sure that we're doing it right and not just flying by the seat of our pants. But I would like to get this resolved. I travel on Everett Road every day, and I'm tired of the cones, and I'm tired of people complaining about the cones. And
So, if they get a proposal to this board doesn't meet again for 2 weeks, so we're talking 2 more weeks there, right? Is that what you're saying, that you won't look at this until you meet again 2 weeks from now and vote on it?
Well, if they get together and agree on something, it's up to them. It would 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it takes.
We'd like to get it done sooner, but I do have an email of Patty Construction to Daryl at some point, and we can go off that.
Any suggestions?
If they could get us, myself, Daryl, Tom, whoever, a written proposal on what they're proposing, then I think we could easily get that drawn up and have it as an actionable item for the board at the next meeting. And it's just a matter of figuring out how quickly they can get out there and do the work.
They have cut back the excavation,
Substantially.
which will really, another savings for the town also, from probably 675 feet down to 125 feet. And so that's a big savings for the town also, of not excavating and putting the dirt and stone back.
Yeah, things like this is what we need in writing in order to vote on it.
So,
I'm going to make sure our attorney's fully in support of this, whatever changes we make.
I mean,
So-
I thought we'd had it all written out and agreed to before, so I don't know if we write it up and agree to it this time, we get out there and find something on the west side that indicates something different. I don't know. We may just be back here again.
The west side is 125 feet now, and the recommendations were to take it possibly 3 feet, but we didn't have to do that on the first side, so.
We need to have you.
Sorry.
It's been televised, you know.
Sorry. Well, so if we agree to this, I promise you, we get this 100, look, there's a lot of work. We got a lot of work. I did not want to leave the last time, but I had to under circumstances. But, Mr. Hill, I don't think digging that 125 feet, we're going to find anything unusual for us to say, whoa, stop again. I think you'll find exactly what we found on the east side. And I could propose, if we find the same we see on the east side, and we find the same exact thing on the west side, I don't see us, even if the material's wetted, the only problem with that part is that your water line is only about a foot underneath the trail, so we can't dig too deep. The water line's only about a foot underneath that trail. So we can only dig to the top of the water line, and after that, it's stone and asphalt. But I don't think, if we did the 125, I don't feel that we're going to find anything other than a cast iron water line underneath it, and I don't think we can go any deeper. So I don't think we'd be back here again, because I just hope I get the opportunity to bid more work for the town of Frederick, since I've been here since '96. I don't want everybody to be mad at us, or I know I'm hot-headed, I'm type A personality, and it doesn't take much for me to stoke a fire under me. It doesn't take much. But I don't think, Dr. Hill, we will find anything unusual to say, for me to say, we're going to stop again. I promise you that. I want to get out of here and get it done for the town.
So if everybody's clear then, in order for this to be on the agenda for the next meeting, he'd have to have it into you by when?
I need a proposal from him by probably next Tuesday.
Did you hear that?
Next
If
Tuesday.
Mr. McKinnon, if you can get a proposal in to me by next Tuesday, then we can get this on the next agenda for the following week.
Okay.
Y'all understand, you got to get a written proposal to them, what you're asking by next Tuesday, to get on the agenda to meet the 23rd, to get this thing put to bed and get everything fixed up and get on with our lives.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Town administrator report.
Two things, Mayor. We've got our Intro to Farragut class is starting next Wednesday, August 15th at 6 o'clock. We'll have our first kickoff session. We have 17 members this year for our Intro to Farragut class, so we've got a good group. And they'll be going through all sorts of different classes on public safety, how the town operates, just a lot of different things, school system here in the town. So we're looking forward to having that class go through. And then also the following weekend on August 17th to 19th, we're going to have the Doc Dogs annual event at Village Green. That'll be all weekend long, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that was a great event last year. So this is the second regional event. And these dogs that jump, these great distances into the swimming pool out there at Village Green Shopping Center will be able to qualify for the national championship, which is held in Knoxville at the Convention Center. So that is the two main things going on right now in the town of Farragut.
30 on that Intro to Farragut kickoff.
Starts at
6 o'clock.
6, and then we'll have a meet and greet for about 30 minutes until 6:30 when we start the class discussion.
Thank you. Town attorney's report.
There's no report.
All right, that being the case, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.